We know that 76% of the 10.7 million undocumented in the United States are employed, and then some informally. So 95% of them could be said to be employed. So if 95% of the undocumented residents in this country are employed, it means that the market can bear it. And in that sense, I think the immigration system in the United States has a huge gap. We don't have visas for the kinds of workers that our very dynamic economy often needs. So having demonstrated that, I think that those who are here already deserve a chance.
We need to find a way to ID and tax the 11 million who are here, offering them some type of protection if they can pass a background check and pay taxes like the rest of us. And it's going to take leadership to make that happen.
The folks who are here and documented today have largely come because America is exceptional. We've created one of the most robust economies in the world, and it's based off this idea that you get to define what your contributions are. It doesn't matter who your parents were, it doesn't matter where you came from.
Now, the challenge is that our legal immigration system has failed for years to keep up with the demand of our economy and our workforce, so that immigrants are faced with this really unfortunate decision. It's not a decision that they want to make, but since there are very few legal pathways for people to enter the country, they make a decision to overstay a visa, to enter without inspection, and hence we're faced with this population of unauthorized immigrants.
The idea of rounding up most or all of them and deporting them would be hugely expensive, probably in the hundreds of billions of dollars. It would be an economic and human tragedy. You think of the workplaces that would be disrupted, the families that would be torn apart. It's just not only unthinkable but impractical. And yet there are ongoing costs of having a large illegal population here, when it's just kind of the offense to the rule of law.
The majority of people we speak to, whether you're talking about the immigrants' rights individuals or you're talking about the America First individuals, they all agree that status quo simply is not working. It's not working for the immigrant, it's not working for communities who don't have the right sense of security or just confidence in the system. And it's because some people are living outside of the system. And so you start to see this dynamic that it's not as simple as just saying, oh, that's a problem.
For the average resident, perception is reality. If you think that your community is unsafe, that is going to color your view. And you can understand why people want police when they find undocumented immigrants. But the flip side of that is that if you look at the best policing tactics and why crime has gone down so precipitously over the last 2 decades, it's happened for a lot of reasons, but one principal one is an investment in community policing. Local police will tell you, sheriff by sheriff by sheriff, that if you want to have a safe community, you need one where police have trust in the community, where people are willing to talk to police, where they have relationships. And that becomes harder to do if they're seen as immigration enforcement agencies.
When you push these people into the shadows and they're not cooperating, the unintended consequence was that reporting of sexual assaults in our city by Hispanics was reduced by 42.8%. And the question that I would ask people is, would you rather have the police officers going and harassing and trying to investigate the legal status of day laborers that are at the Home Depot parking lot? Why would we want to push those people into the dark? Why would we want to push those people away from earning a living?
Let's face it, those 11 million people just aren't sitting on their duffs. They're working somewhere. They may be working under a fake social, they may be working as an independent subcontractor, but they're working and they've got skills. A lot of these workers working in the underground economy used to work for people like me. You know, they were let go because of ICE audits or Social Security no matches or insurance audits or whatever. And you know, at one time there were 11 to 12 million people in this country on payrolls, sending in about $6 to $7 billion a year on Social Security that they would never get. These ICE audits have taken millions of people off of payrolls and dumped them into the underground economy where they're working for cash and not paying taxes. The hefties that run big crews, the labor brokers who violate every principle in law, yeah, they're making a lot of money. But if you take the typical worker out there walking on that trust, that are working as independent subcontractors, they're living in poverty, most of them. They don't have workman's comp. And if they get hurt, most of them are going to just suck it up If they get hurt bad, they're going to go to the ER. And if they go to the ER, it's expensive and we have to pay for it.
The challenge is that we think over half of the undocumented are uninsured. And that's a challenge because if they don't have the cash to pay, those costs are shared by the rest of the community. Either tax dollars pay for them or in uncompensated care where those costs have to be pulled out of insurance premiums and insurance dollars from other sources. Part of being in the shadows of the U.S. economy also means they delay care and don't go to the emergency room when they probably should. The problem with that is that they are sicker than they would be. If they would have come in sooner, they might have been able to be treated at a lower cost. One of the real challenges of having families where some people in the family are undocumented and some may be U.S. citizens, that family may be afraid to sign up their U.S.-born, U.S. citizen child for Medicaid or CHIP or other benefits because they're afraid that that information will lead to someone in the house being deported. The problem with that is that those kids do get sick. They don't get the preventive care. They don't get the immunizations that they need. And so it causes worse outcomes, not just for them, but for the rest of us.
These are kids that are American citizens by and large. Provided they get a sound education, they're going to be participants in our democracy. They're going to be participants in our economy. And yet parents are deathly afraid to come out of the shadows. They really can't appear at the school. They can't really be a part of the school life. When a child is not doing well, there is this negative impact of peer learning. There are teachers that are frustrated that this child may not be doing as well, that their parents aren't helping them do better. You know, where are the parents? How many times have we heard this from teachers? Yet, we are coming down on the parents. I mean, this is us who becomes the obstacle. And so if we just continue this system along, I worry about all these kids that could be tremendous economic assets for us, but they're never going to be there. They're always going to be underperforming. These are all the sons and daughters of America. You know, what are we doing to make sure that they can be successful? And we're falling short.
This is the reality that we've been living in for far too long. The undocumented is not fully living in the United States under the current status. We have not given them the opportunity or certainty to be able to fully contribute to the country, and that is not just hurting them, but that's hurting all of us. At the end of the day, the vast majority of folks that are here to contribute. And if given the opportunity to come out of the shadows and be here with a legal status, they're gonna take it. So how do you find a system that allows the undocumented to come out, but that the rest of America says, oh, I trust this system?
If they've been living in the shadows, taking care of their kids, that's our future workforce, being good citizens, good neighbors, they should be given legal status. They're cutting our lawns, cooking our food, taking care of our kids, building our houses, our churches. We're not going to deport those people, but why can't we at least ID them so we know who they are for national security? And then they can pay taxes like the rest of us, ID and tax.
An ID and tax program would make a list of the individuals who are here without authorization and giving them an ID that looks a lot like a driver's license and allows them to work so they become active members of the economy and stay in this country and, of course, pay their payroll taxes and their sales tax and all the taxes that any other permanent resident of the United States would pay.
And to do it right, I think it has to have certain elements. One, it has to be largely available. You know, if you look at the illegal population, 2/3 of them have been here for 10 years or more. They're embedded in their families, their communities, their workplace. When you get down to 5 years or 3 years, you're covering most of them. So you've got to cut it off at some point, but maybe those who have been here for 3 years or more. And then, of course, background checks, criminal, terrorist background checks. That's absolutely vital. It's important for security.
So it is up to Congress specifically to set the parameters of who would qualify. Once you do, of course, you have to set up the right offices at DHS for these individuals to report, to get into a census, and then to apply and to pay a fee for that benefit. I mean, it does cost to process them. There's a bureaucracy behind it. There's some costs of space and equipment and tracking these people and so on. So that could be borne by the immigrants themselves, as it's already been done in the case of DACA. So there's a number of technicalities that would need to be decided by those who would design the program, but I think it's quite doable.
It's an adult DACA. We know it works because it's worked for 800,000 people. Everything is in place.
We know that there are certain components of the immigration system that need to change. But the truth is, if we want to get closer to this idea where you have a system that's welcoming, that's respectable, that people can actually choose to engage with it and find ways to navigate it, and then you can actually have enforcement that will hold people to that because you've created a system that is fair, that's equitable, that talks about security. People need to feel secure in their own country. That has to be part of the conversation.
But if we resolve the issue of the undocumented residents in the United States with an ID and tax program, and we make sure that we measure correctly what is happening at the border and how secure the border is, then we can focus on what the system should look like for the 21st century.
There needs to be solutions that help us drive to a place where we see more of the benefit that comes from immigration, rather trying to sit here and think that it's only enforcement or what people deserve automatically. The debate should be about where it is that we can all benefit, which is truly at the heart of immigration overall. It's always been about people that want to come here to improve their lives, and by doing so, improving the lives of everybody.
If Congress were able to enact an ID and tax bill, it would have a tremendous effect on the entire United States. It would give a whole lot of parents peace of mind that they can get legal status, contribute to the economy, raise their kids, and be part of something. We could all work towards improving the quality of life for everybody.